My name is Sarah. I'm 28 years old, and I always believed I had a united family. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, in a cozy suburban house, where Saturday mornings were always filled with the aroma of my mom's pancakes and the laughter of my two younger sisters, Emma and Jessica. Emma, 2 years younger than me, was always the family mediator. She had this calm way of resolving conflicts and an impressive intuition about people. Jessica, the youngest, was the opposite. Impulsive, dramatic, but with a huge heart. Despite our differences, we were always close, or at least that's what I thought. My best friend since college, Rachel, was pregnant with her first child. I met Rachel at the University of Oregon, where we studied business administration together. She became more than a friend. She was like a sister I chose to have. When she announced her pregnancy, I was genuinely excited. She was radiant, married for 3 years to Mark, a gentle engineer who adored her. The baby shower was scheduled for a sunny Saturday in May. Rachel had rented the party room at her condominium complex, an elegant space with large windows overlooking a well-maintained garden. The decoration was in shades of blue and white, with balloons, flowers, and a table full of sweets that made my mouth water just looking at them. I arrived early to help Rachel with the final preparations. She was nervous, as she always got when hosting many people, adjusting and readjusting the flower arrangements for the 10th time. I helped her organize the baby shower games and arrange the gifts on a side table decorated with a giant blue bow. Guests began arriving around 2 in the afternoon. It was an interesting mix. Rachel's work colleagues, some college friends, neighbors, and of course, my family. My mom arrived with a radiant smile, carrying a gift wrapped in blue paper with white polka dots. Emma came right behind, elegant as always, wearing a floral dress that highlighted her green eyes. Jessica appeared 15 minutes later, slightly out of breath, apologizing for getting lost on the way. The atmosphere was lively. Women chatted in small groups, laughing and sharing stories about motherhood. The sound of clinking glasses mixed with laughter and animated conversations. Rachel circulated among the groups, her cheeks pink with happiness, her hand always unconsciously resting on her 6-month belly. I was talking with some of Rachel's work colleagues when I noticed my sister Emma watching me from afar. There was something in her expression that intrigued me, a seriousness that contrasted with the festive atmosphere around us. She seemed nervous, constantly fidgeting with the necklace she wore, a habit of hers when she was anxious. During the game of guessing Rachel's belly size, Emma approached me. She had a cup of punch in her hand, but I noticed she had barely touched the drink. Her expression was tense, and she kept looking around as if checking whether anyone was listening to our conversation. That's when she whispered the words that would completely change my perception of my own family. Emma leaned close to me, her voice low and urgent, almost inaudible amid the party's buzz. What she told me made my stomach churn and my heart race in a way I had never experienced before. The party continued around us, but suddenly everything seemed distant, as if I were seeing everything through fogged glass. The laughter sounded muffled. Conversation seemed to echo from far away. I felt as if the ground had disappeared from under my feet. Emma discreetly pulled me to a more private corner of the room, near a window overlooking the garden. The afternoon sun entered softly, creating a strange contrast with the storm forming inside me. She looked around once more before continuing to speak, her voice still low but loaded with an urgency I had never heard before. What my sister revealed to me at that moment wasn't just information. It was the first thread of a complex web of lies and manipulations that had been woven around me for years, and I had been completely blind to notice it. The person I trusted most, the person I considered my second family, had been working behind the scenes in a way I could never have imagined. Emma's words echoed in my mind like a disturbing mantra. She told me she had overheard a conversation between Jessica and my mom the previous week. They were in the kitchen at home, thinking Emma was upstairs, but she had come down to get water and ended up hearing something that shocked her. According to Emma, Jessica and my mom were discussing Rachel and me. Jessica apparently had been jealous of my friendship with Rachel for years. She felt that Rachel had taken her place as my closest confidant, especially after Rachel got married, and I started visiting her more frequently. But what disturbed me most was learning that my own mother was supporting Jessica in this situation. Emma told me she heard my mom saying that I was distancing myself from the family because of Rachel, that I was prioritizing my friend over my sisters. They were planning something to cause friction between Rachel and me, something that would force me to choose between my friend and my family. As Emma spoke, I felt a mixture of disbelief and nausea. I looked around the party, seeing Jessica chatting animatedly with some guests, smiling and appearing completely innocent. My mom was helping Rachel open gifts, her expression maternal and caring. How was it possible that these people I loved so much were conspiring against me? Emma told me she didn't know exactly what the plan was, but she was certain something would happen during the baby shower. She had noticed Jessica and my mom exchanging meaningful looks during the party, and Jessica had arrived with a large bag she didn't usually use, carefully storing it under the gift table. I tried to process all this while maintaining a neutral expression. The party continued around me. Laughter, conversations about babies, fun games. But I felt as if I were in a parallel reality. Every smile from Jessica, every caring gesture from my mom, now seemed loaded with hidden and sinister meaning. Emma advised me to stay alert and observe Jessica and my mom's movements. She promised to support me, but said we needed to be discreet to avoid causing a scandal at Rachel's party. After all, this was my best friend's special day, and she didn't deserve to have her celebration ruined by family drama. I returned to the party trying to act normally, but every movement seemed forced. I participated in games, smiled in photos, chatted with other guests, but my mind was constantly analyzing every interaction with Jessica and my mom. I watched them from the corners of my eyes, looking for signs of what Emma had warned me about. During the game of writing wishes for the baby, I noticed Jessica quickly scribbling something on her paper and then folding it differently from the others. She didn't put her paper in the basket with the rest, but discreetly stored it in her bag. Was my paranoia growing, or was there really something strange happening? When it came time for Rachel to open the gifts, everyone gathered around her. It was a joyful moment. Each gift was received with exclamations of joy and sincere thanks. Rachel was genuinely excited, her eyes sparkling with happiness as she unwrapped tiny clothes, educational toys, and practical items for the baby. That's when Jessica stood up and said she had a special gift to give. She went to her bag and retrieved a wrapped package I hadn't seen before. The package was small, wrapped in gold paper with a red bow. Something about the way Jessica held the gift made me uncomfortable. There was tension in her movements, a stiffness that didn't match the festive atmosphere. Rachel received the gift with her characteristic smile, warmly thanking Jessica. But when she began to unwrap it, I noticed a subtle change in Jessica's expression. There was expectation in her eyes, almost a malicious anticipation that made me feel a chill down my spine. What happened next was like watching an accident in slow motion. Rachel opened the box and her expression changed instantly. The smile disappeared, her eyes widened, and she turned completely pale. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked at the box's contents, and for a moment, silence took over the room. Rachel quickly closed the box, but not before I managed to see a flash of what was inside. They appeared to be photographs, but the distance and speed with which she closed the box didn't allow me to see the contents clearly. What I could see clearly was the expression of shock and horror on my best friend's face. The other guests began to murmur, realizing something was wrong. Rachel tried to smile and said she would open that gift later, in private, but her voice was shaky and unconvincing. Jessica, on the other hand, had a poorly disguised expression of satisfaction, as if she had just completed a successful mission. My mom immediately stood up and suggested that maybe it was time to serve the cake, in an obvious attempt to divert attention from the embarrassing moment. The guests gradually returned to their conversations, but I could feel that the party's atmosphere had changed. There was a tension in the air that hadn't existed before. I took advantage of the distraction to approach Rachel. She was putting the box in her purse with quick and nervous movements, clearly wanting to hide the contents from all the guests. When our eyes met, I saw a mixture of confusion, hurt, and something that seemed to be betrayal in her gaze. Rachel pulled me aside, away from the other guests. Her hands were still trembling when she opened the box to show me the contents. Inside were 3 photographs and a handwritten note. The photos showed Mark, Rachel's husband, and me in situations that, although completely innocent, were clearly taken from angles and moments that suggested intimacy. One of the photos showed us talking closely during Rachel's birthday barbecue the previous month. Another showed us laughing together when he helped me carry some groceries to her car. The third was from when he gave me a thank you hug after I helped Rachel decorate the house for a surprise birthday party for him. All were completely innocent situations, but the photos were taken to suggest something more. The note, written in handwriting I didn't immediately recognize, said that someone who cared about Rachel thought she should know about the secret relationship between her husband and her best friend. The note suggested that our friendship was just a facade to hide an affair, and that I was taking advantage of her trust to get close to Mark. I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. The cruelty and malice behind that gift were devastating. Someone had deliberately taken these photos, waited for the perfect moment, and used them as a weapon to destroy years of friendship and potentially a happy marriage. Rachel was clearly shaken. She asked me directly if there was something between Mark and me. Her voice was broken, and I could see tears forming in her eyes. It was evident that despite years of friendship and trust, the seed of doubt had been planted in her mind. I vehemently denied any romantic involvement with Mark. I explained that our interaction had always been completely platonic and respectful, limited to contexts where she was present or had asked us for help. But I could see that words weren't enough to completely erase the doubt that had been carefully cultivated by whoever had orchestrated this. That's when I realized the true malicious genius behind the plan. Whoever had done this didn't just want to cause problems between Rachel and me, but also wanted to destroy her marriage. The photos were taken and presented in a way that would cause maximum possible damage, not just to our friendship, but to her family life. I looked around the party and saw Jessica watching our conversation from afar, trying to appear casual while clearly paying attention to our reaction. My mom was also nearby, serving cake, but obviously keeping an eye on the situation. Emma was on the other side of the room, her worried expression confirming that she too had realized the plan had been put into action. Rachel said she needed time to process everything. She wasn't directly accusing me, but it was clear that the trust we had built over the years had been shaken. She asked me to understand if she needed some space for a few days to talk with Mark and clarify her feelings about the whole situation. I felt my heart breaking. Seeing my best friend, pregnant and emotionally vulnerable, being manipulated this way made me furious and devastated at the same time. But what hurt me most was realizing that the people responsible for this cruelty were my own family, people I loved and trusted completely. The rest of the party passed like a blur. Guests gradually left, but the festive atmosphere had completely disappeared. Rachel did her best to keep up appearances, but was clearly shaken. When it finally came time to leave, she gave me a tense and forced hug, very different from the warm hugs we always shared. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions and confrontations I never thought I would have to face. First, I decided to confront Jessica directly. I went to my mom's house on a Tuesday afternoon, knowing Jessica usually stopped by after work. When I arrived, I found Jessica and my mom in the living room, having tea and chatting as if nothing had happened. The normalcy of the scene contrasted dramatically with the storm raging inside me. They greeted me with smiles that now seemed false and calculated. I decided to be direct. I asked Jessica about the photos in the note. Initially, she tried to deny any involvement, acting surprised and asking what I was talking about. But when I mentioned specific details about the box's contents and how Rachel had reacted, her expression changed. My mom immediately tried to defend Jessica, saying she would never do such a thing. But I could see in Jessica's eyes that she knew she had been discovered. Finally, After a few minutes of denial, Jessica admitted she had orchestrated the entire situation. Her justification shocked me even more than the betrayal itself. Jessica said she was tired of seeing me prioritize Rachel over family. She complained that I spent more time with Rachel than with my own sisters, that I shared secrets with her that I didn't share with family, and that Rachel had become more important to me than my own blood. According to Jessica, she had hired a private detective to follow Mark and me for several weeks. The detective took hundreds of photos, but Jessica specifically chose those that could be interpreted compromisingly. She admitted she knew there was nothing romantic between Mark and me, but said she wanted to cause enough problems for me to realize how destructive my friendship with Rachel was to our family. What shocked me most was discovering that my mom not only knew about the plan, but had helped finance it. She had paid for the private detective and helped Jessica plan the exact moment to deliver the photos, during the baby shower, when Rachel would be emotionally vulnerable and surrounded by people, thus maximizing the impact and humiliation. My mom tried to justify her actions by saying she was worried about me. She said I was distancing myself from the family, that Rachel was having a negative influence on me, and that they just wanted to bring me back to the family fold. In their distorted view, destroying my most important friendship was an act of love and protection. The conversation turned into a heated argument. I explained how their actions not only hurt me, but also harmed Rachel, a pregnant and innocent woman who didn't deserve to be involved in manipulative family games. I tried to make them understand that solid friendships don't diminish family love, but rather complement and enrich it. But it became clear that Jessica and my mom saw no wrong in their actions. They continued insisting they had done everything out of love, that they wanted to protect our family, and that I would eventually understand and thank them for what they did. This lack of remorse and inability to recognize the damage caused left me even more devastated. I left my mom's house that day, knowing my relationship with them had changed forever. Trust had been broken in a way I didn't know could be repaired. More importantly, I needed to find a way to repair the damage caused to my friendship with Rachel. I tried to contact Rachel several times in the following days, but she didn't respond to my messages or answer my calls. Finally, after a week of silence, I decided to go to her house. Mark answered the door, his expression tense but not hostile. He told me Rachel was going through a difficult time and didn't want to see anyone. I explained the entire situation to Mark, about Jessica, my mom, the private detective, and the plan to separate us. I showed him screenshots of messages Jessica had sent me admitting her participation, as well as financial records that Emma had helped me obtain, proving my mom had paid for the detective. Mark was shocked to discover the extent of the manipulation. He told me Rachel had spent the week questioning not only our friendship, but also trust in her own judgment. She was feeling betrayed, confused, and emotionally exhausted, especially with pregnancy making everything more emotionally intense. I asked Mark to show Rachel the evidence and explain that our friendship had been attacked by people who wanted to separate us. He promised to talk to her, but said she would need time to process everything and decide how she wanted to proceed. 2 weeks later, Rachel finally called me. Her voice was tired, but no longer hostile. She apologized for having doubted me, and explained how the whole situation had left her paranoid and insecure. She said that after seeing the evidence and talking extensively with Mark, she realized how she had been manipulated. We met at a cafe near her house on a Saturday afternoon. When we saw each other, we both started crying. It was an immense relief to be able to hug my best friend again, and know that our friendship had survived the malicious attack it had suffered. Rachel told me how difficult those 2 weeks had been for her. Besides dealing with doubt about our friendship, she had also begun questioning other relationships in her life, wondering if other people also had hidden motivations. Pregnancy had made everything more emotionally intense, and she had spent many sleepless nights analyzing every interaction we had had over the years. We talked for hours that day, rebuilding the trust that had been shaken. Rachel told me that, ironically, the whole situation had made her value our friendship even more. She realized how rare and precious it is to have someone you can trust completely. and how some people are capable of going to extremes to destroy healthy relationships out of envy or manipulation. As for my family, the situation remained tense for many months. Emma continued being my ally, frequently apologizing for not having alerted me earlier about her suspicions. She also distanced herself from Jessica and my mom during this period, showing her disapproval of their actions. Jessica and my mom eventually tried to reconcile with me, but without ever really admitting the gravity of their actions or showing genuine remorse. They continued insisting they had acted out of love and that I was being dramatic in reacting so strongly. This lack of accountability made reconciliation very difficult. Over time, I managed to establish clear boundaries with them. I didn't cut contact completely, but made it very clear that certain lines couldn't be crossed again. I significantly reduced the time I spent with them and stopped sharing intimate details of my life, now knowing this information could be used against me. Rachel gave birth to a beautiful boy 3 months later, and I had the honor of being chosen as godmother. During the baptism, looking at that innocent child in my best friend's arms, I reflected on how the events of that baby shower had changed my perspective on family, friendship, and trust. I learned that blood family doesn't always mean unconditional loyalty, and that sometimes the people we choose to have in our lives can be more trustworthy than those with whom we share DNA. I also learned the importance of having people like Emma, who have the courage to do the right thing even when it's difficult, and like Rachel, who managed to forgive and rebuild trust even after being hurt. The experience taught me to value even more the authentic relationships in my life and to be more cautious with those who demonstrate patterns of manipulative behavior. Most importantly, it made me realize that sometimes the people we love most are capable of the greatest betrayals, and that we need to be prepared to establish healthy boundaries even with family members. Today, years after that fateful baby shower, Rachel and I are closer than ever. Our godson is a constant source of joy, and our friendship has strengthened through the adversity we face together. As for my family, we're still working on rebuilding trust, but now with a much more solid foundation of honesty and clear boundaries. The most important lesson I took from this entire experience is that true relationships can survive even the most calculated attacks, as long as there's open communication, honesty, and willingness to fight for what really matters. And sometimes, the most painful situations can lead us to a deeper understanding of what we truly value in our lives.